Hey everyone, Chef Sarah here with the Sylvia Center. We're a nonprofit specializing in providing food and nutrition education in New York City and Columbia County. Today I am making a Moroccan chickpea and vegetable stew. It's super yummy, has tons of veggies, tons of great spice in it. So I'm gonna go wash my hands and then we'll get started. So my hands are washed and my area is nice and clean and we are ready to go. So I have all my mise en place ready, which as we've learned, mise en place means everything in its place. So you can see I have everything cut and ready to go into my stew. Before I start cooking, I always like to make sure I have all my ingredients. That way I'm not running around searching for everything or cutting things while something's burning. So I always like to be prepared. Okay, so let's talk about what I have going on here. There's lots of fun ingredients. This is going to be so tasty. So I have garlic and onions, which always add a lot of flavor to all the dishes that they go in. I have sweet potatoes and carrots. Sweet potatoes are one of my favorite vegetables. They're so yummy. I actually left the skin on. You could definitely peel it, but I always like the skin whenever I cook, but it's really up to you. I also have cauliflower that I've just broken down into little florets. I have zucchini. I have parsley and cilantro, which will also add lots of flavor. I have chickpeas, which these chickpeas are a main part of this dish. They're going to get a great texture cooking in this stew. I also have some golden raisins. So this is going to add just a little bit of sweetness to our Moroccan stew. I also have our spice mix. So this includes turmeric, ginger, salt and pepper, and a little bit of cumin. So this is going to be what really spices this, and it's also going to give it a really great color because that turmeric will really, dye anything yellow that it touches. So definitely be careful if you ever have, a white spatula or something light in color, the turmeric will dye it yellow. So always be careful. And then I also have some crushed tomatoes. You could use whole tomatoes too and just crush them up yourself. I also have a little bit of olive oil. And just on hand, just in case, I have some vegetable stock. I might not need it, but if the stew starts to get too thick, I want to be able to thin it out to make sure everything cooks. Okay, so let's get cooking. Okay, so here I'm starting to saute my onions with olive oil. And I saute them until they get a little soft and start to become translucent. Once that happens, that's when I'm going to add my garlic and those spices. So once again, I have salt, pepper, turmeric, ginger, and cumin. So I'm just kind of tossing those around. That way those spices start to get toasted and all that flavor is really going to come through. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and add in my chickpeas. In place of chickpeas, you could use lentils or beans. You really have lots of options here. So once those get heated through and coated in those spices, this is when I'm going to go ahead and add in my tomatoes and a little bit of that vegetable stock. I can always add more later, so I'm just going to start out with just kind of a splash of that stock. Once that's in there, I'm going to go ahead and add in my sweet potatoes and my carrots. And I'm just going to let those simmer. I'm going to let that cook for about 10 minutes in there. And those are going to start to get really nice and soft and kind of soak in all those flavors of the spices and the tomatoes right in there. This is when you're going to want to add any of those herbs. I did save some herbs for the top because I always like to top my stews with herbs. So this is cilantro and parsley, and I added half in now, and I'll save the other half for later. So once I give this a really good stir in there, this is going to be when I start to add in all those other vegetables. So I'm going to add in my zucchini and cauliflower. This is where you would add in other vegetables that you might be using. If you were using peppers, red or yellow peppers are really amazing in here. If you wanted to make this fall-like, you could definitely throw in some eggplant or whatever you want would go in great. Okay, so once all those veggies are in there, that's when I'm going to let this simmer for another 10 minutes. By letting this simmer and cook in there, all those flavors are going to get absorbed into the veggies, and they're all going to start to soften up a little bit and become really, really flavorful. I'm going to keep a good eye on this and keep stirring, and I'm also just going to let that get just a nice little bubble in there. You don't want this to be at a full boil, but you definitely want a simmer. I'm also going to add in those raisins. The raisins are just going to add a sweetness in there that's really going to balance out those flavors. So as I stir those in there, this is when we're going to let it sit and simmer for the next probably about 10 minutes. So we'll check in on it and do a taste test. Okay, so my stew is complete. It smells fantastic in here. I'm going to serve this stew with couscous. So couscous is a Moroccan style pasta. Today I'm using whole wheat couscous, but you could use whatever kind you want. I cooked this ahead of time, and I actually just poured boiling water over the couscous. I covered it and I let it sit for 5 minutes. I just fluffed that up with a fork, and then it is good to go. Okay, so I'm going to put a nice big spoonful right over that couscous. That looks absolutely gorgeous. I saved some of my cilantro and parsley, so I'm going to put that right on top. Okay, so this is good to go. I'm going to go eat this. It smells amazing, and it's packed with tons of veggies. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Keep cooking. Bye.